Welcome back. We've got an NBC News exclusive here. The maker of OxyContin is offering to settle thousands of lawsuits for a collective price of $10 to $12 billion. Purdue Pharma is being sued by states, cities, and counties across the country for their role in allegedly fueling the nationwide opioid epidemic. News of the possible settlement comes just a day after an Oklahoma judge ordered Johnson & Johnson to pay $572 million for its role in the opioid crisis and how it impacted Oklahoma. Now, Johnson & Johnson says it will appeal. Purdue Pharma had already settled out of court in the Oklahoma case for $270 million. Now, prosecutors in Oklahoma had asked for $17 billion total, and though $572 million sounds like a lot of money, for Johnson & Johnson, it's a drop in the bucket. The company reported more than $5 billion in profit last quarter. So times that by 4, that's $20 billion a year, yada, yada, yada. You can do the math. Laura, we've actually had to do a lot of math today, so my apologies for that. Laura Strickler is an NBC News investigative producer and first broke this story earlier this afternoon. Laura, thanks very much. So Purdue Pharma, it's obviously not an accident that they floated this settlement today. Where do they come up with the number?
They basically they've been meeting with the states, the cities, and counties at the request of this federal judge in Cleveland, and he's said to them, "Come on, let's try to find some kind of a global settlement so that everybody can move on, so we can avoid years of litigation." So he has been shepherding this process, and what they've come up with is this $10 to $12 billion. The company would file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, would still continue to function as a business. It's just the Sacklers, the family that owns it, would go away. They would no longer be involved. The company would become a for-profit trust that would continue to sell drugs, continue to market drugs, but all those profits would then go to the plaintiffs, the cities and the counties and the states that have been hurt from the opioid crisis.
So this is a pretty... on one hand, I look at 10 to 12 billion, and some would argue that is that enough money to do what many are arguing needs to be done? It's going to take a generation, perhaps, is that enough money? But it does sound like any more money they try to get out of Purdue, and I guess Purdue's trying to say it puts us under, and then we won't have the money.
Yeah, what they're saying is if you can continue this litigation, and we will file for bankruptcy, and you'll get a lot less money. Or you can go with this deal. We'll continue to function as is. We'll bring in an independent board of trustees to run the company as a trust.
Right.
And then all those proceeds will go to the greater cause of the cities, counties, and states.
How many other companies? So this is Purdue Pharma. So that's one, and we had Johnson & Johnson over here. The collective lawsuit, the one in Ohio, the one that Purdue Pharma, how many other opioid makers are involved in that one?
So there are about 6 or 7. I mean, some states decided to sue distributors and some manufacturers,
makers, right?
So it's a bit of a hodgepodge between some of the main manufacturers and the main distributors.
But is this a negotiation just for Purdue Pharma's portion of this?
Yes.
And then the lawsuits against everybody else would continue?
Correct.
Is the judge not trying to create a global settlement here at all?
The judge is working on the Purdue Pharma piece of it, which is arguably the most significant.
He wants that one first.
It appears so.
All right.
But the others are also on, the judge is actively trying to settle those cases as well.
Johnson & Johnson, the $500 million verdict, why is this viewed as we did obviously the math for them, but why do their attorneys sort of view this as a win? Seems like a horrible term to use, but as a probably breathing a sigh of relief in their mind.
Johnson & Johnson?
Yeah, why is Johnson & Johnson relieved by this verdict?
And the stock market as well. I think because the threat there was Mike Hunter, the Oklahoma State AG, was asking for so much more money, and they ended up with $500 million. So he was asking for, as you said, $17 billion. But if you multiply it out, and if they get $500 million for Oklahoma, and you see other settlements like that around the country, it could add up over time.
I was just going to say, if you look at Oklahoma as $500 million, and even if you extrapolate it out evenly, you get to $25 billion in a hurry.
Yeah.
And something tells me that Oklahoma isn't 1/50th of this.
Right. Exactly.
That the number is probably bigger than this. We're we're looking at $100 billion at some point? That's probably when all's said and done?
I mean, I think a lot of people
Collectively?
are looking at this, 10 to 12 and saying, well, let's compare that to tobacco.
Yeah.
But we just got to remember, tobacco was a number of different companies involved. It wasn't just one company.
Right.
So we're going to see, certainly there are forces moving in the direction of trying to find settlements with these other companies. It's possible we could end up at 100. But
By the way, we're starting to get down to almost one tobacco company. Anyway.
That's right.
And
That's right.
that is probably the future of opioid makers down the road. Laura Strickland, thanks very much for your reporting.
Thank you.
Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor, subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Meet the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.